Woman of Reddit, what is your "I'm the client not my husband stop ignoring me" story? When I had my appendix taken out, I asked my doctor when sex would be okay again. He turned to my husband and said whenever you feel ready, you can begin sexual relations again. I don't know if he was uncomfortable talking to me about it or was deferring to what my husband would prefer. Either way, it was strange. I've had a gynecologist speak only to my husband. I wanted to scream he doesn't have a vagina, but I was too shocked. My wife and I in Dubai. Being the Middle East, they would exclusively approach me, but the credit card was hers. Every damn time. This was my experience with my boyfriend in Vietnam. I sort of expected it, but it still ended up really bothering me. No one ever spoke to me directly if we were together at a restaurant. We were clearly done with our meal and my boyfriend went to use the restroom. I looked over at the female servers and made eye contact while trying to signal them. They just stared at me back. I piled plates together. Nothing. A few minutes later my boyfriend comes back and they approach to ask him if he wants anything else or the check. Nothing to me. Even when him and I tried the hotel spa, which usually are sexist in the other direction and cater towards women. They only ask Mr. So and so. How was everything? Not a word to me. It took away from the enjoyment. Not a spousal thing, but I work on male skewing TV shows, and a lot of my colleagues are male. It happens from time to time overall, but there is one really weirdly consistent instance. We hire local drone operators all over the US and around the world. I'm the showrunner, and I direct the shows. So when we meet our drone team I give them an overview of what we are looking for in the shot. Conservatively, 75% of the time, follow-up questions will be directed to my male colleagues. No matter where we go, it happens. My colleagues are now in the habit of just staring back in response, letting it get real awkward, and then saying ask her. Edit. Many thanks for the award and lovely comments. When I was a baby for some reason I wouldn't latch on when my mother breastfed me, so I wasn't eating well. The doctor completely ignored my mom and only talked to my dad because she was too hysterical. He was on the verge of finding out what that looked like. What the duck? Question mark? Why would you turn to the dad about breastfeeding? Question mark question mark. Question mark question mark. Question mark question mark. Question mark? Trying to collect a parcel from the post office that was addressed to both me and my husband. Was told that my husband had to come to collect it. I asked whether they meant both of us had to be there, and the response was no, just him. Needless to say I was not happy, and after a while arguing they gave me the parcel. My old teacher told me a story about a cold caller. A man phoned the house phone. This was around the 80s/90s when people still had house phones, asking for the man of the house to talk about changing supplier for something or other. My teacher, a woman, told the man that her husband was away on a business trip and to call back the next day. He called the next day, again asking for the man of the house, and she informed him that her husband had been delayed and to call back the next day. He called the next day, and she informed him that due to bad weather his flight had been delayed until later on that night. So please call back the next day. He called the next day. She put her husband on. The man asked about changing to his company's service. The husband informing him that his wife dealt with all the bills and please talk to her. My teacher took the phone, said no thank you and hung up. This is amazing. The level of petty I could only aspire to be. Auto repair. Happens a lot. One time I described the problem to the guy at the desk as a clicking. When I turned the key and asked it, they'd check the timing belt. They said I'd have to leave it, so my husband arrived 10 minutes later to pick me up. The mechanic came out and asked him what was going on with the car. Never looking at me, I finally asked if he checked the timing belts as I'd asked the guy at the desk to do. He had not. Got a say mad turned to cocky when it turned out to be the timing belt. Needed a new car and went by myself to check some places out. Was patently ignored despite being seen by more than one salesman. Had to take my husband with me, whom they did talk to. I took auto mechanics for 2 years. My husband knows nothing. Buying a car. If anyone actually approached me, I got to do a few test drives. Then once I got to the negotiation stage they would ask me to take the offer home to my husband. I was single. If they didn't suggest taking it home to my husband, they'd then send me to the financing office, because how could a single woman possibly buy a brand new vehicle in cash? I finally found a great salesman who didn't pull this sexist shit on me, and I bought a vehicle same day. I was in the market for a new car. I'd done my research and knew exactly what I wanted down to the color. I also knew how much I was willing to pay. The only question left to answer was how much I get for my trade-in. I walked into a car dealership near my work. A salesman approached me. I told him I wanted to buy this car with these options in this color and then asked, "I need to know how much you'll give me for my trade-in." Apostrophe. He immediately responds, "Don't waste my time if you're not serious." Apostrophe. I walked out, and that evening I went to the dealer near my house. I walked out 2 hours later with my new car. You can bet I called the first dealership the next day and spoke to the manager. My scenario doesn't quite fit the bill, but I'm a female business owner with a male business partner. I've had a few customers born in the dark ages and reps that asked to speak to my boss, but the worst was a guy who snapped his fingers and told me to put the kettle on early. Needless to say he didn't get his cuppa, and he certainly didn't get the discount he asked for. Wasn't my husband, not even my boyfriend, but a guy friend I happened to have around when a joiner came to fix something in my home. I welcomed the joiner in, started talking to him about the issue. Then he saw my friend and did a 180 to talk to him. He literally turned his back on me while I was mid-sentence in my home. Every damn time I take my truck in for something they call my husband or my father to discuss my truck, even when I express to call me it's mine and not an idiot and it's in my name. Multiple times I've had this happen. Shopping for hunting knives with my brother. I was at the counter. The guy stood in front of me and spoke to my brother, who was 10 feet behind me and on his phone. We walked out. Multiple gun shops I've been looking at pistols and the salesmen have either ignored me to speak to whichever man I was with, brother, dad, husband, whoever, and some even have the nerve to say, "She'll like this one best," to the men. I hate most when they recommend the pink pistols because it's pretty and I need a pretty pistol. I hate pink. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.